On Friday, the 24th of October 2025, news filtered into newsrooms and boardrooms across the length and breadth of Nigeria. News of the glorious departure of the man unarguably regarded as the Doyen of the taxation profession in Nigeria, Chief David Ajibola Olorunleke.
Chief David Ajibola Olorunleke is widely regarded as the Doyen of taxation in Nigeria, having started his journey in that sector in the year of Nigeria's independence in 1960. In the year 1978, Chief David Ajibola Olorunleke emerged as the director and head of the then Federal Inland Revenue Department, yes, Department of the Federal Ministry of Finance. Chief Olorunleke served there for 14 years, eventually becoming the chairman of what later became the Federal Board of Inland Revenue and much later the Federal Inland Revenue Service. At his elevation to the position of Director General, which was the nomenclature that was used to replace Permanent Secretary in the twilight years of the Ibrahim Babangida administration, Chief Olorunleke had served as the chairman of the FIRS for 14 years, which today remains a record as the longest-serving chairman of the FIRS. In 2007, Chief Olorunleke returned to the board of the Federal Inland Revenue Service as a member representing the North Central Geopolitical Zone under the Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act 2007. In between his onerous task as head of the Federal Board of Inland Revenue and the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Chief Olorunleke spearheaded the formation of an organization of tax administrators and practitioners, which today is known as the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Chief Olorunleke was the pioneer president of the CITN, serving from 1985 to 1995, also the longest-serving president of the CITN to date.
Chief Olorunleke was a devoted friend of Tax Matters. He was there with Tax Matters, the program, from the very beginning. Our paths first crossed at the second annual tax conference held between 10th and 13th of May year 2000. Chief Olorunleke was one of those that we spoke to at the event, and the interview with him and others, along with some other events which we had earlier covered, became the stock and source materials for our very first episode, which was broadcast on July 4 year 2000. A month into the program, we approached Chief Olorunleke in Lagos for an interview, and he readily agreed. That formed the larger part of episode 5 of Tax Matters.
Viewers, you're welcome to our Guest of the Week segment. Tonight, we have a very important personality in the studio. Chief Olorunleke, you're welcome to Tax Matters.
Thank you very much.
Now, you were the helm of affairs at the Federal Inland Revenue Service for 14 good years. And that gives us the satisfaction that we are talking to somebody who knows his onions as far as tax administration is concerned. Now, what are the ways in which we can modernize tax administration in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for bringing me to the studio. And I would like to tackle this first question by looking at it from 4 main angles. The first is to get a good tax administration, you need a good machinery in place for the gathering of information to ensure that those who are expected to pay tax are brought into the tax net. Secondly, you need a gathering of information machinery that will ensure the sources of income of those you have brought into the tax net. That these income sources are known and are regularly made available to the tax office. The third is you need a very well-trained and well-equipped staff to implement the laws for the imposition and the collection procedures of the tax you are collecting. And then, fourthly, I think you need a very good law to back it up, because whatever you do in taxation, you have to back it up with law. And this law must be adequate, must be properly in place, and the provisions must be very, very clear. Now, how do we modernize these four things? Starting from the law, for example, you need a constant review of the tax laws from time to time to make sure that the tax laws are in line with the trend of the economy of the society. That is, whatever you are doing, your reference point must be what form of economy are we running? What are the main trades of taxpayers? And what are the transactions that normally go on between A or B, one company or the other, and one person or the other? Now you have to keep on revising these tax laws to make sure that you catch these businesses, you catch these transactions. That's number one. Number two, how do we modernize the staff? The staff needs to be well trained from time to time.
Tax Matters turns 25 in July 2025, and amongst other things, the landmark was marked with a commemorative interview titled Our Story. The story of Tax Matters cannot be completely said without Chief Olorunleke's support at the very beginning, as you find in this clip.
About the third or fourth episode, we featured Chief David Olorunleke. Now, after about 3-4 episodes, I left the studio in Surulere and transferred to Digitrack Studios at the TBS at the Tafabalera Square in Lagos. I had met Chief David Olorunleke at the annual tax conference in May, and I had gotten to know that was the man that was considered and is still considered today as the Doyen of taxation in Nigeria. He started as chairman of the Kwara State Board of Internal Revenue. Kwara was the state that now became Kogi and Kwara. So he was chairman of Kwara State Board of Internal Revenue long before Kogi was created. And then he moved to the Federal Internal Revenue Service as chairman. And he was there for about 12 years. He was the first president of the CITN. So I decided that we should interview him. Digitrack Studios was at one end of the TBS. Mr. Olorunleke's company was situated at the other wing. So I just drove across the tarmac and brought him to the studio. When we finished, I was taking him back. He told me how happy he was, how it was a dream fulfilled, that he wished that this was in his own time at the FIRS, blah, blah, blah. That the closest they got to it was a program on accountancy, but a young man died in an accident, and that was the end of the program. That he was very happy that a program was being dedicated to taxation. He brought out an envelope. I said, what was it? He said, as his support. I don't know what got into me. I said, Daddy, I don't want to start this job as a brown envelope journalist. Apologies to my journalist colleagues. I said, I didn't want. He said, what did I want? I said, link me to the FIRS. He said that was not a problem. I should come the following day. He will give me a letter to the FIRS. I went the following day, and the letter was ready, typed. He gave it to me. At the annual tax conference, I had met the chairman, the then chairman of the FIRS, Alhaji Sukogi, just casually. He was actually entering his car. We wanted to interview him. Somebody was stopping us. And the person turned out to be somebody I knew, one Mr. Awa, of blessed memory now. His brother was my colleague at the National Theatre. So the following day, at that annual tax conference, I went to the FIRS. I met him. And I left. So when I came with the letter, it was my second time. Of course, a day or two before I went, Mr. Osemene, who was a director at the FIRS and later on also became president of the CITN, called Alhaji Sukogi, the chairman, about me. And Alhaji told him that Chief Olorunleke had told him something about me, something like that, and that he should talk to his friend. And the friend he was referring to was that his special assistant, Mr. Awa. So when I went now with the letter, Mr. Awa, I brought a letter for Oga. So I saw Alhaji Kogi. He received me very warmly. In fact, saw me to the door. Tell Oga you saw me. Tell Oga you saw me. He had a lot of respect for Chief Olorunleke. Everybody does. That was the beginning of our relationship with the FIRS. That was the end of our problems, sponsorship problems, money problems. There's never enough money, but then that was how we got out of the woods. FIRS came into the picture in the first quarter of 2001. Because I remember I went for an event and I went to see Alhaji Kogi that I had not heard a word, and they said it had been approved and they paid us. So that was how we began our journey. And went on, and the rest, like they say, is history.
In the course of the next 25 years, Chief Olorunleke was a guest on tax matters several times. In the year 2012, precisely on September 29, the CITN flagged off an annual birthday series in honor of Chief Olorunleke.
This maiden edition of Chief Olorunleke's birthday is a long-awaited event which has been on the minds of council members to commemorate the establishment of taxation as a professional service to be reckoned with in the history of Nigeria. Towards this end, the President and Council of CITN inaugurated a four-man committee in 2011 to take up the responsibility of putting machinery in place to ensure today's event comes to pass. In the history of tax administration and tax practice in Nigeria, the role of the celebrant cannot be ignored nor overemphasized.
At the event, Chief Olorunleke had this to say.
I'm looking forward to a day that is being done in other countries that are more civilized and take more seriously the taxation of their nation, when you'll be able to file your return online on your bed, and even while you are in the car, you are able to file your return online without any hustle or bustle. And if you cannot do it or you have no time to do it, you will have a team of experts that are willing to help you to do it with little or no charges.
On the sidelines of the 20th Annual Tax Conference of the CITN held in May 2018, Tax Matters sat down with Chief Olorunleke to explore ways to institutionalize tax-paying culture in Nigeria.
Chief Olorunleke, welcome to Tax Matters. What, in your view, are the critical factors that will make us reach that goal in the short term and long term?
Well, thank you very much. The problem we have had as far as tax payment is concerned in this country is that many of our people are very reluctant to pay tax. The culture of payment of tax has been very, very low compared with other countries. And we have had the opportunity several times to see how best we can improve this culture. You will discover that many other countries are better off in terms of this culture than we are in Nigeria. And the CITN has been set up really to educate taxpayers and preach the gospel of taxation so that taxation is not to be feared by taxpayers. We are supposed to be friendly. Taxation is supposed to be friendly. You should pay it with ease, with joy, and with the intention that you are contributing towards the development of the country. The more people understand the reason for paying tax, the better it is for the country. When I was chairman, many people used to tell me that, why should you come and collect tax from us when our roads are not good, there is no water, and the education is poor, nothing is happening, or nothing is working well. That is the type of thing I used to get. But I used to tell them at that time that my duty is to collect tax. It is not my responsibility to build roads, to provide water. It's another set of people in government that are supposed to do that. But now that I'm outside, I take it for granted that yes, it is true, we collect tax, but the taxpayers really have a right to say, why are we not getting good roads? Why are we not getting water? And that is what I myself am beginning to realize, that I have to say something. In fact, at that time when I was chairman, I just had to say something. I knew they had a point, that yes, the government must show the evidence that we are using this tax for something by way of development. So to encourage people to pay more.
The holy books talk about the rich taking care of the poor.
Yes.
And even in traditional societies, it's pretty much the same. I mean, you look at the downtrodden and you feel a compulsion to help them. Why do we need to ask the poor to pay? Why do we have to pay taxes?
During my time as chairman of FRS, I felt that for anybody to hold the government accountable, and the general public should be able to hold the government accountable, nobody should be left behind. So we introduced this minimum tax. Whatever it is, every little person who is earning any income should be able to see himself or herself as part of the society, and I'm contributing towards the development of the country. And if the government is not doing anything, the rich and the poor should be able to hold the government to ransom.
When CITN turned 40 on February 4, 2022, Chief Olorunleke was one of the founding fathers and mother that we hosted on the program. How did it all begin?
Well, it didn't start as a chartered institute of taxation. It started first and foremost as an organization within the tax administration then, which used to be called Federal Inland Revenue Department. And I had my officers working together as a unit under my supervision. And we were the administrators of taxation. We decided to form ourselves into an association of tax administrators. And we were carrying this association to the Joint Tax Board level to make sure that the same thing happens at the state level. And so we had this union of tax administrators. Then, of course, we had some other people from the practicing side who were ready to come along with us, and they believed that we had the right to do all these things. So some of them were quite receptive about what our stand was, and so they were ready to cooperate with us. One of those people was Mr. Ijewere. And then Ijewere, that I was talking with, said he was going to UK. And I said, okay, this time, please get into the office of the Institute of Taxation in UK and see whether they can get a copy of their charter and bring it to us. We will study and see whether we can ask the government to give us something like that. And that is where we started, Now, when he came back, he brought a copy of their charter, and we looked into it. We saw the amendments we could make, and we started the process of getting it into government to form an Institute of Taxation in Nigeria.
When value-added tax turned 30 in Nigeria, Chief Olorunleke, being one of the men at the center of it all, was our guest. Chief Olorunleke, thank you for joining us on Tax Matters.
Okay.
Can you give us a background to the introduction of VAT into the Nigerian tax system, considering the fact that we had sales tax before VAT was introduced?
It is true that we had sales tax before VAT. The federal government
first of all introduced the sales tax on petroleum products at petrol stations. You have to pay an extra sales tax of, I think, ₦1 per liter or something, which was an extra fund to the revenue at that time. And before NNPC distributed these products to all the filling stations in the country, before anybody comes to NNPC to take the product, you will have paid the sales tax. Now, later on, this was extended to other products at the state's level. And most of the things we considered was, how do you collect sales tax? It was all right with petrol because we had only one distributor, and that was NNPC. So you just charge NNPC the percentage, and then it reflects on the distribution throughout the country. But now, if it's sales tax on all products, how do you collect the sales tax? Who is the major distributor of all these products, where you can charge the person the sales tax? We had difficulty in respect of that. So sales tax at that time was not possible on other products. And so when you introduce it to other products, the other states were now complaining that they were not able to collect, and the only product that they were able to collect upon was beer, which was manufactured by a few companies in Lagos. Those were the people distributing taxable products. And they sometimes argue that what is being consumed in their states is not commensurate with the checks they are getting from the companies, because some of the products that are sold to Lagos distributors still find their way into all the other states through some other means. So it is not everything that goes to Lagos that is consumed in Lagos, and therefore it was difficult to know exactly how much each state is consuming. And so we decided to think out of the box and see how best to do these things. And we said, okay, the best thing is to introduce the VAT. The idea was that we cannot be collecting VAT through the markets, through the beer parlors, because they will not keep records. So the best we could do is target all goods that are coming from abroad and put the tax on them at that entry point. Target all the manufacturers within the country and target whatever they are producing at the point of distribution. You know, as of now, we cannot target everything. Sales tax or VAT is best collected at the point of sale, but it is not possible in this country as of now, because the point of sale is at the market. A few are the shops. At the shops, how many shops do we have? And they don't keep records. So this is the reason why we suggested that only one single collecting authority, and we suggested FRS because they are the most widespread. If FRS collects, then they can put it in a basket and share it in accordance with the consumption perspective. We completed all arrangements to introduce VAT before 1992, before I left the FRS.
What a great man. Tax matters bids farewell to the great one, a titan, the Doyen of taxation in Nigeria.